Hi everyone and welcome to my channel Caroline's Knits. My name is Caroline and I live in Scotland with my husband Ben. Our dog Fela was rudely being interrupted in her morning nap, and we have a baby coming around Halloween time. I'm originally Danish, but I've lived in Scotland for 10 years this month, which is mental. I actually am trying a different angle again today. I'm always trying new angles. What do we think? Is it not slightly better? It's definitely more comfortable. We also have very strong sunlight because in the mornings, because of the way our house faced, this is essentially the only sunny side, so if I sat downstairs I would just be in complete darkness. You will also be hearing some dog barking. It's obviously not my dog, as you can tell. The big working dog is asleep next to me. But I do have a neighbour who has a dog that she never takes inside when it barks. So I realised when editing the last podcast episode that you can hear it, which is really frustrating, but there's not really anything I can do. So I do apologise if you hear like faint dog barking. It's probably just my neighbour or someone else where I live who also has a dog that barks and never gets taken inside. Rant over. I really wanted, this idea has been in my head for a while. I have this beautiful long list of all these video ideas that I never get around to filming, and I thought I would just get started while I'm in the mood to film on one of them. So today, at first I thought I would call it something like capsule wardrobe, but actually I don't know how much capsule wardrobe is really the right term for it. So I thought if for whatever reason I lost all my knits, maybe I can, let's say I move somewhere very exciting and I can't take any of my knitwear with me. I don't like the thought of them in a fire, that makes me kind of sad. But if I had to start over from scratch with all my knitted items, what things would I knit and why? So I wanted to say first of all that I actually think in the past sort of like I feel like during the pandemic my style very much just went on hold because I work from home 90% of the time, so I do have periods where I'm more in my office, but I also have many periods where I'm kind of just like today wearing comfy trousers or joggers or leggings. And especially after getting Fela, I feel like I had a long period of time where my only priority was really, can I wear it on a dog walk? And I feel like in the past sort of year or so, year and a half, I have started to look at my closet and kind of think about what kind of things do I need in my wardrobe and what do I feel comfortable in. Like what is Caroline in her late 20s? I'm not 30 just yet. In her late 20s, like what's her style like? And I think my style has very much changed. I think I used to be a lot more preppy prior to the pandemic, and I think I still quite like dressing tailored, but I think I'm a lot more like neutral than I used to be. I'm a lot more like I want things to fit well and I want to look put together, but I don't want it to be too much faff. And I also think in that process I have a lot of feminine elements in my wardrobe, at least when I'm not 7 months pregnant. At the moment it's just whatever fits. But I do think I'm maybe less feminine than I used to be in the past, so I'm not much for like big frills or like lots of lace or like too much of that kind of faff. So I will say that I think my style has very much changed, and I think if I had done this video say 2 years ago, it would have been a completely different list of items that I would have said was really important in my wardrobe. And I think the same for sort of like the colours that I have chosen. So for when I first started knitting, I bought loads of yarn. During the pandemic, I definitely coped with stress by buying yarn, and buying lots and lots of yarn early on meant that I also think I bought a lot of colours that I would no longer buy. I definitely think I've become a lot more neutral, and I've kind of realised that it works best for me if my wardrobe stables are coloured, like basically, ranging from white to black with a bit of grey and brown and beige and kind of in between shades in that kind of neutral scale. So essentially I don't limit myself on neutrals, but then for actual colours in my wardrobe, I have basically decluttered to a point where I only have tones of red, some slight oranges in there, and lots of blue, because I find those two colours are colours that I tend to feel comfortable in, that I find easy to style, that works together, that works with all the neutrals, and it just kind of works for me. So as part of this list, I've also thought about what colours I would make the item in, instead of just what item would I make, because I actually think a big part of like why something is a staple in your wardrobe is also the colour it is. I should also say that I haven't picked like just one pattern for each of these categories. I've kind of picked a style, and then I will talk about what's currently in my wardrobe that kind of fits it, and you will definitely see that there are some pattern designers I'm probably going to mention more because I've knitted more from certain pattern designers, and that's because I am not always the best at reading a pattern. So oftentimes, honestly, if I have a designer and I like the way the patterns are written, I will often be drawn to pick designs from them because I know I can read the pattern. I think sometimes I just rush through patterns a bit too much or get myself confused, and I just like simplicity. So that's loads of waffling, loads of caveats, but I think it's important to set the scene before I go on to my list. I do have notes because I always think whenever I have notes for video, the video turns out better. So very first thing that I would remake, and that was my immediate thought, is a drop shoulder casual sweater in some kind of neutral colour. The two sort of sweaters I think I have in my wardrobe that really fits the bill is sweater number 11 light and sweater number 23, both of which are by My Favourite Things Knitwear. Instead of doing try-ons on every single of these sweaters, I'll put in pictures of me wearing them, so you will see a slideshow throughout this video. Sweater number 11 light is probably my biggest success. I did do some modifications to the original pattern. Originally it's knitted with like a roll neck and with twisted stitches or like twisted rib, and I just wanted it completely plain. Other sweaters I've made kind of in this category, there's also the Wednesday sweater by Petite Knit. That one I made in a neutral base with a bit of hand-dyed through it, like with a hand-dyed suri, and while it's lovely, I don't think it's quite neutral enough, so that's why I said I'd make it a neutral. So what I really like about sweater number 11 light is the kind of beigey colour, because for example this summer I've loved to wear it with I have had a pair of blue linen trousers it's worked really well with. I have a pair of green linen trousers that it's worked really well with. I've worn it with a pair of jeans before I had a much more limited wardrobe. Also worn it with work trousers, and I just find that it's kind of like, it allows something else to shine in your outfit, but it also kind of makes things a bit more casual. Sweater number 23 is a chunkier version. Sweater number 11 is like a DK weight, whereas sweater number 23 is knitting full of heavy merino and soft silk mohair. That was gifted for the test knit. I did test knit it, and because I test knitted it, I didn't increase the lengths on it, and that's probably my biggest regret. I wish I'd extended the sleeves a little bit, and it's a little bit more oversized in the sleeves because there's no decreases and stuff. So I have worn it loads. I love the yarn combination, and it is probably my favourite yarn combination of all time. But I think the slightly lighter fit of a DK weight and also the extra length added to 11 probably makes that my favourite. But I could totally see myself making, for example, another Wednesday sweater. There's also a sweater number 18, which is like a texture. Also from My Favourite Things, you can probably see a trend with these drop shoulders that she's my drop shoulder pattern maker of choice. I do love the texture on sweater number 18. My sweater number 18 is also knitted in very soft yarn in like a pink colour, and while I find it really fun that it's in a colour, I find that it's rarely my top choice for going out. I just think I'm more drawn to my neutrals day to day, but I could definitely see myself making that in some kind of colour in the future. because it kind of has that like sweatshirt feel, but still looking, I always think a knitted sweater looks slightly nicer than a sweatshirt. So that's my first pattern of choice, or first pattern, sort of first item of choice, I should say. My second item is a V-neck drop shoulder cardigan, and I actually think I would make it in a colour if I was to buy yarn specifically for it, which I have been so tempted to do, especially I'd love to make like a cabled cardigan, which I do not own currently, so it's not something I made. I really like, I think it's jacket number 2 from My Favourite Things Knitwear. What else is, and then like there's a really lovely one from Rauba. I've been considering buying some Fivel to make like a cardigan, like a cabled cardigan. So I definitely think that could have some texture, whereas I think the previous one I would probably go for like plain stockinette first. The reason I put this on is that I finished it in November last year. I made jacket number 1 by My Favourite Things Knitwear, which is that kind of drop shoulder. It does have texture like sweater number 18, so it does have some knits and pearls. I have worn that so much. I wasn't sure I was going to, because I didn't actually love the colour, but I just find a cardigan is so easy to wear, especially over the summer where it's so easy to take on and off as a layer. That one I've not knitted mega long, and I think that has a benefit because I've worn it a lot at work as well, because it's a bit more casual than say a blazer, but it's still dressed up, like you still look nicely dressed. And here in summertime I've worn it so much. It's probably helped by the fact that now that I'm pregnant, I think there's something nice about being able to wear something fitted and then a cardigan on top. But yeah, that has been a major hit, and it's just made me realise that actually I could fit loads of cardigans in my wardrobe, because I do have other cardigans that don't have that kind of V-neck drop shoulder fit, and while I do like them, I think I quite like a little bit of like almost a masculinity that comes with that oversized garment fit. So for example, I've made the waffle cardigan in the last year by Knitting for Olive, which is a beautiful pink all over lace cardigan, which I thought I'd wear loads and I really haven't. I'm just not drawn to it. Again, probably a mix of the colour, but also because I think the lace is it's a lot on its own. It's like that's the outfit when you wear it, whereas jacket number 1 I don't think is. A long time ago, in like my first year of knitting, I made one of My Favourite Things cardigans. Maybe it's cardigan number 7 or something. It's like a raglan cardigan with balloon sleeves in a blown yarn. And while I've worn it, I would never say it's been at the top of my list, and I think that's why it's taken me so long to make more cardigans. I've also recently finished the Eva cardigan by Petite Knit, which has it has a double rib stitch, like a double ribbing throughout. I was just looking because Baby Girl has a matching one made by Simona from Knit, which is really sweet, and I do really like that one. But that one, is like, I would call it a grandpa cardigan. That's kind of the fit of it, and I have worn it, but that pills a lot more than my jacket number 1, so it's been not worn as much. But I just think also V-neck is really flattering on my shape. I don't like it in sweaters as much because I get a really cold chest, and I feel like you need to have a bare chest with a V-neck sweater, which I don't feel with a cardigan. So that's a major one for me, and also something where I feel like currently in my wardrobe I couldn't think of enough examples that tick that, yet it was one of the first things I thought of mentioning. So yes, I have basically had a basket of yarn with knit for the past week, and I haven't ordered it because I'm obviously just about to have a baby, and I don't know if I would have time to knit an all over cable cardigan. But let me tell you, I have been tempted to check that out, and I would really like to knit like a dark red, or yeah, like a dark red I think would be really beautiful in my quite neutral wardrobe. Yeah, because I think that kind of cardigan design I think is very trendy at the moment, so I do wonder if this is an item that could over time become a little bit not trendy anymore, and we could wouldn't wear as much. But I feel like it's around to stay because it's quite a practical one, so I think you'd get quite a good few years out of it. My third item is a goes with everything simple sweater, and preferably in a very, very, very dark grey or black. I'm just gonna have a sip of water. This is kind of like, I feel like where the sort of like previous designs are like natural dress things down, but still not just like wearing tracksuits out in public. For this, I kind of mean if you have another item that you're wearing that you want to take focus, and just something really simple, light, easy to wear. So I have two in my wardrobe that I thought of that I have worn loads because they're not an outfit on their own. They kind of just suit whatever you wear them with, and they are not something where someone is going to say, oh, the sweater is what makes the outfit. It's kind of what supports something else to make the outfit, if that makes sense. So the first one is my Karl Johan sweater from Knitting for Olive, which is a roll neck sweater that has a saddle shoulder. I have knitted mine with waist decreases, so it's quite tight fitting, and I've also knitted it relatively short, so it works amazingly with when I wear like tailored high-waisted trousers, which is something I wore loads prior to pregnancy, because I've discovered in pregnancy that I am a major trouser person, and I just feel like it really suits me when I wear the high-waisted wide leg trousers, and I just find Karl Johan is perfect for that. In the past, I've also worn it with skirts. It does have that kind of like, it just sits really nicely. It looks like it suits my body, but it's not making a big faff on its own. The other one is the office sweater by Knit Flitter. This is actually one of my older sweaters, and so is Karl Johan. The office sweater I've knitted in Isea Alpaca 1 and 2, and it's a very, very light fabric because it's also quite a tight gauge. I think it's about 24 stitches, or so it's not quite DK weight, just borderline. And I think in that yarn it's incredibly light. And what I've loved with the office sweater, it is my choice sometimes if I want really something simple to wear but not big and chunky. I will wear that because it's a dark grey, it's very easy to wear, it's comfortable, the lengths are good. But I've actually also worn it on top of my dresses quite a lot. I think especially if you have a dress, I have a dress that has it's black with blue stars on it. I love it has a waist tie, and then I will just tuck the office sweater underneath the tie, and I really like that. Again, what kind of sets that apart is just that the fit is good. It's not that it has beautiful lace or anything fancy, but it just works really easy, and I find it very easy to style. My fourth item is a colourwork sweater. So I feel like there could be, I've just finished, currently it's soaking in the bath, I've just finished the Inge sweater, which I've been talking about on my podcast, which is an all over colourwork sweater, my first all over colourwork. But I feel like my oldest sort of colourwork sweater that I have really enjoyed wearing is my Nordstrand, which is a free pattern by Phil Colana, written by Henrik Reimann, who is a Danish designer that makes quite a lot of colourwork sweaters. The reason why I picked this kind of colourwork is that I think it's a very traditional look, and if you are a knitter, I think there's something about knitting colourwork that's just extra special because it's such a specific skill. I also find that in winter time, so another pattern that I have made with colourwork is this. This is my Celeste sweater by Petite Knit, which I feel like when she released that, it just took the world by storm, didn't it? And that one, I just, this one I have worn so much because this is a bit of an outfit on its own, and I think sometimes it's a little bit more fancy looking. So I've worn this loads with just a pair of trousers, casually. I love it on video calls. I think, like me, if you work from home and you have to look nice in your home office but you don't just want to be sat in sweats all the time, these kind of sweaters are great because they look really good but are generally quite comfortable. So I definitely think some kind of colourwork sweater would be on there. And again, I think I've grown more to see that being part of my wardrobe, especially if I can use it as a way to combine. For example, my Inge sweater combines red and blue in the colourwork, which are two colours that I am trying to have, you know, kind of stick to in my wardrobe. So all of a sudden, if I have a pair of navy trousers, I can now wear the sweater with them, for example. I also, on my list to make in the sort of not too distant future, is some colourwork sweaters from Sari Nordlund, because I think she makes really lovely colourwork sweaters. Now, my final item is a bit of a cheating item, so I will mention the three things I would remake, but also I guess it is technically three different items. It's some kind of outdoor set. This is not something where I'm like, oh, this is really stylish, I really think I've found what suits me. This is pure stuff I actually wear quite a few months of the year, because I live in Scotland and I have a dog that I need to take out, as you can tell, obviously. And I just use sort of like an outdoor set so much. You know, when it's winter time, these are items I can't really do without because I would be cold. Scotland isn't, I think where I live sort of like central belt, so where I live it gets cold, but it doesn't get like mega cold. Like, we're not talking Norwegian, you know, -30, we're talking Celsius, I should say. I think in Scotland in winter time we're just around, you know, probably ranging from about 0 degrees to about 5 degrees, but it can be very, very windy and it can be very rainy, so I find often having a little bit of extra warmth is quite important. So my sort of like winter outdoor set of choice is the penny gloves. This is the one thing I would 100% remake because they're just so practical. When I first saw the penny gloves pattern, which is a pattern by Petite Knit, I was like, they look daft. I didn't like the rolled edges. I was like, she's literally just made a stockinette tube and sold the pattern for money. And I am still the person who went out and bought it and have knitted 2 pairs. I love the penny gloves because when I walk the dog, I do need to be able to use my fingers, and because I feed her treats, I clip her, you know, the leash on and off, like all of these things, I need my hands, like my fingers, to be out. And you can kind of get your hands a little bit up in the penny gloves so they stay warmer, but you still have lots of dexterity. It's knitted at quite a thin gauge, and I quite like that it's not too tight fitting either. I find it more comfortable. My first pair is so grim, I don't actually think I can show them off on the podcast because they have dirt on them that's not going to come out, but it does tell you that I have had them for 2 seasons and have worn them so much. My first pair was made in Vilcolana Saga, held with Telia, and they're just chef's kiss. They are probably my most worn item. They're not stunning, but they are so practical. In the past, I've also had them in the car. You know, when you first get in your car in the morning and it's really cold and the steering wheel is cold and it just takes, you have to wait for your front, like, you know, your window to defrost. There's nothing better than having a warm pair of like fingerless gloves to put on, especially because you can drive with them. So yeah, they're some of my favourites, and I've definitely not made my last pair. The next one is the School Run headband by my lovely friend Penrose Knits. I tested this when she very first released the pattern, which is a long time ago now, coming up to 3 years, and it is a headband. I much prefer wearing headbands to hats. I have a weird head for hats, I think. I just never find they sit right. Either they get too far down in my face, or they feel too big or too small, whereas like a headband is great for me, especially because I can have my hair up, and as I said, Scotland can be really windy. In winter time, I generally wouldn't like go for walks with my hair down like this. I would put it up. Headband just makes it so much easier. So yeah, and I just really like the slight frills on it. It's nice, comfortable, fits me great, would make again. The final thing is the bandana cowl. I think that's what it's called. It's a free pattern by Pearl Soho, and it is essentially, it looks like almost like what I think of cowboys wearing. So it has a triangle in the, like, it's more triangular in the front, which I think from memory you might be doing short rows to do it, and then it's slightly shorter in the back so you don't have loads of bulk. and it just works so well because it's not like tight fitting. It's not like wearing a scarf that's like flapping about and that you need to like sit in a specific way. But when it's really cold, you can kind of have it up against your chin and it provides like a little bit of protection for your face. My bandana cowl is knitted in Filcolana Provivian, the same as my school run headband, and because the headband is folded to create the twist and it's like essentially double layered, it's quite warm. I do think I could see myself using some stash on to knit a sort of like better or slightly thicker bandana cowl, because mine is a little bit on the thinner side, and sometimes when it's really cold I would quite like something that's a little bit better for the weather, but you can't really go wrong with a free pattern. And I think all of these are also great examples of things that you could knit for Christmas gifts. And that's my list. Did any of it surprise you? If you've been here for a long time, you might have seen me change over time and change, I guess, my style a little bit as well. We're coming up to 4 years in December that I've been making videos. I'm sorry, I should stop petting you, shouldn't I, so you can sleep? I would love to know that if you were to make the same list, what would be on your list? I think it would be really interesting to see what other people considers like top choices, and also any patterns that kind of stand out as, if I lost this I would 100% remake it because the pattern is just perfect. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I am 100% sure someone else has done this, and I might have seen the videos and forgotten because my brain is currently like a sieve. So if I haven't given someone credit for coming up with this idea, I promise it's not malicious. And if you've watched this and wanted to make it, then I think you should feel free to do so. I think it would be really interesting to see, and maybe it can be a nice, I think it's like a little bit of a nice, not counterpoint, but kind of like a different perspective, because when you film podcasts like me, you're always very excited about your newest finished project, but sometimes what actually stands the test of time isn't always what you enjoy knitting the most, or even what you enjoy the most when first finished. So yes, if you want to make this video, then I certainly don't own the rights to it, so feel free on my account to do the same. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye!